There's a place in Texas where robots make mistakes on purpose, thousands of times a day, 7 days a week. The name of this place is Robot Park, and it was opened by the American company Apptronik to put its Apollo 2 humanoid robot to work on tasks all the time without stopping. Behind this lies a billion-dollar bet that whoever accumulates the most real-world data first will win the humanoid robot race. And there's a detail in this story that Apptronik barely disclosed involving Google DeepMind, which could change who ends up with the most valuable slice of this technology. Want to understand it all? Then watch the video to the end and I'll explain everything. But first, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll stay up to date with the latest robotics news. Apptronik has just opened Robot Park, a facility of over 8,000 square meters, which previously operated as a Dell server center. Today, that same space houses rows of humanoid robots working all the time on logistics, manufacturing, and retail tasks. Along with the opening of Robot Park, Apptronik also unveiled the Apollo 2 to the world, the latest version of its humanoid robot, available in 2 configurations, one with legs, bipedal, and another on a wheeled base. Apptronik was founded in 2016 at the Human-Centered Robotics Lab at the University of Texas at Austin by specialists who had already worked on robots like NASA's Valkyrie. Apollo is the 16th robot built by the company, not an initial project. In February 2026, Apptronik raised a $520 million round, bringing its Series A to more than $935 million. The historical total raised is now approaching $1 billion. That puts the company at an estimated valuation of over $5 billion. Now, why open a giant robot park in the middle of Austin right now? The answer lies in a phrase that Apptronik's CEO and co-founder, Jeff Cardenas, repeated several times to the press that week. The industry has spent years showing what robots can do in demos. We're focused on what they can do every day, on the job. It's a direct jab at much of the humanoid robotics sector, which lives off pretty videos of robots folding laundry or making scrambled eggs, but which in practice still stumbles once it leaves the studio. Cardenas said in an interview given hours after the announcement that the idea for Robot Park wasn't born in a corporate boardroom. It was born from beer and idle chat. According to him, in the early days of the company, he and co-founder Nick used to drink beer on the banks of the Colorado River in Austin, dreaming of robots building other robots. He even had an affectionate nickname for the idea, Willy Wonka's Robot Factory. 10 years later, the barstool dream became an industrial facility, a lot less magical, a lot more sweat-soaked, but following exactly the same logic. Just as we have a factory that builds robots, now we also have a factory that produces data, Cardenas said. That phrase isn't just a good headline quote. It sums up the central argument behind the entire investment. According to Apptronik, a humanoid robot doesn't learn to work by watching YouTube videos the way a language model learns by reading text from the internet. It needs to physically pick up a box, feel that the weight is off, slip on a wet floor, bump into an obstacle that wasn't on the map. Each of these small failures becomes data, and it's exactly that kind of data, messy, unpredictable, real-world, that's in short supply across the entire robotics industry. Robot Park was created to solve exactly that bottleneck, generating, according to the company, significant amounts of high-quality data every day through a combination of teleoperation, where a person remotely operates the robot, and autonomous execution, when the robot itself makes the decisions. And it's not only happening in Austin. Apptronik confirmed it has already replicated this same data collection model in other locations around the world, including inside Google DeepMind's own facilities, a research partner of the company, as well as Mercedes-Benz factories and GXO distribution centers, one of the largest logistics operators on the planet. The data collected by the Apollo 2 inside Robot Park doesn't just sit in a spreadsheet. It directly feeds the development of Gemini Robotics, DeepMind's line of AI models focused specifically on robotics. In other words, every box the Apollo 2 carries, every part it organizes, every mistake it makes inside that Austin warehouse turns into fuel for the artificial brain Google is building for robots more broadly, not just Apptronik's. So how, in practice, does a robot learn to work inside this so-called robot park? First, forget the image of a lone robot, switched on, learning on its own like a brilliant student. That's not how it works, at least not yet. Apptronik uses 3 combined methods to teach the Apollo 2. The first is called teleoperation. Think of it as a sophisticated remote control. A person from inside a control room uses sensors and augmented reality goggles to command the robot's movements remotely, almost as if wearing its body by proxy. It's the same logic as using a controller to play a racing game, except that instead of a car on screen, there's a robot lifting a box in a warehouse. The practical consequence is that even before the robot knows how to do something on its own, the company can already record how that task should be done, capturing every movement as a perfect example for the robot to study later. The second method is autonomous execution. Here, the robot has already attempted that task so many times under supervision that it moves on to performing it alone, with no one at the controls. It's the moment when the student stops copying the teacher and starts taking the test with their own hands, and sometimes gets it wrong. And it's exactly that mistake that matters. Every stumble, every object that slips from the gripper also becomes data, because it shows the AI exactly where the current limits of the technique lie. The third method leaves the physical world entirely: high-fidelity physics simulation. Before any physical robot attempts something risky or expensive, Apptronik tests the movement inside a virtual environment that mimics the laws of real-world physics: gravity, friction, weight, balance. It's like an airline pilot training for hours in a flight simulator before stepping into the cockpit of a real plane. This allows for thousands of mistakes without breaking a single part, and only movements that have already passed the virtual test make it to the factory floor. The sum of these three methods is what the company calls a continuous learning loop. According to Cardenas, the goal is for the robot to work, collect data, improve, and go back to work in a cycle, in real environments, on real tasks. It's a constant loop, and each turn of that loop should leave the robot a little more capable than it was before. Except there's one piece of this engineering that few observers mention, and it explains how Apptronik manages to coordinate all of this without it turning into chaos. It's called Artemis, and it's the software that acts as the robot's central nervous system. Think of it as an airport control tower. It doesn't fly any plane itself, but it makes sure landings, takeoffs, ground traffic, and safety teams all happen in sync at the right moment without colliding with one another. In the same way, Artemis ensures that the robot's perception, what it sees and senses, action planning, safety systems, and interaction with nearby humans all work in a coordinated way. Without that control tower, you'd have a bunch of excellent sensors and no coordination between them. The practical consequence is that the Apollo 2 turns a simple command, "Take that box over there," into a sequence of coordinated whole-body movements, without a human needing to manually program every motion. And there's a second layer of software called Fleet Connect, which solves a more tedious but essential problem: how to manage not one robot, but hundreds of them, spread across several countries at the same time. It's basically a central control panel, like the one an airline uses to track all its flights around the world in real time. Without something like that, Apptronik would have robot data scattered across Austin, Germany, and the United States, with no practical way to bring it all together, compare it, and turn it into unified learning. So what changes then compared to what existed before? For years, the bottleneck in humanoid robotics wasn't building a robot that could walk. That technically has existed for a while now. The bottleneck was always teaching that body to perform useful tasks reliably, outside a controlled lab environment. Most of the industry solved this with carefully edited demo videos or with closed-door tests with no transparency about failure rates. What Robot Park represents, in practice, is the attempt to take that process out of the closet and turn it into an industrial operation 7 days a week, with multiple external partners participating at the same time. And it's exactly that scale that separates a good idea from a real competitive advantage. Physically, the Apollo 2 has grown compared to the first version. It reaches about 1.82 meters, roughly 6 feet in height in the bipedal configuration, and can carry around 25 kilograms, about 55 pounds, using both hands at once. The equivalent of two 20-liter mineral water jugs held at the same time, with arms extended in front of the body without losing balance. That's quite a load for a body the size of an adult human. The battery lasts, on average, 4 hours of continuous operation, depending on the task. And according to Apptronik, this time it received specific safety certification, which allowed, for the first time, taking the robot out of the lab and placing it inside real customer facilities. To avoid stopping production every 4 hours, the company opted for swappable batteries. Just as you'd swap the battery on a cordless drill in the middle of a job, an operator swaps the Apollo 2's power pack in a few minutes, and the robot is back up almost without any downtime. This is what allows, according to the company, an operation that comes close to running all day, 7 days a week. The wheeled version hides a curious, little publicized detail. It has an extending vertical axis, allowing it to reach a little over 2 meters in height, enough to grab a box from the top shelf of a warehouse without needing a ladder or another person nearby to help. It's this kind of seemingly small detail that decides whether a robot is truly useful inside a real distribution center or just looks good in a promotional video. Apptronik acknowledges important limitations in the Apollo 2. The main one is in the bipedal version. The heavy battery has to sit in the torso, which increases power consumption and the risk of falling, which is why the company is betting first on the wheeled version, which is more stable and already meets safety standards for mobile robots in factories. Another point is the lack of transparency around numbers. Cardenas refused to say how many Apollo 2 units are operating around the world, saying only "many robots," which makes it hard to assess whether the operation is small and carefully curated or a genuinely large fleet. Current testing is also concentrated in controlled environments. Robot Park itself, Google DeepMind's facilities, Mercedes-Benz factories, and GXO centers. The real measuring stick, then, is that of a physically strong robot with the stamina for near-continuous operation, but one the manufacturer itself still treats as a prototype, not a product ready for any customer. It's that gap between impressive and ready for the real world that carries concrete consequences for people working in logistics and manufacturing today. If a still imperfect humanoid robot showed up tomorrow at your factory, your warehouse, or your shift, promising to learn from its own mistakes within a few months, would you train it side by side, knowing it might eventually take over part of your job on its own? Or does that cross a line you're not willing to accept? Leave your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll always get notified about new videos. See you next time.